Hi there, and welcome back to rLounge. Does everything happen for a reason, or does life just suck sometimes? Today, we learn that life is going to get hard sometimes, but the trick is to not let that break us. We must get back up. Up first, sometimes we just have to laugh. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbors that I don't care for their living situation? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. I recently relocated to Orlando from Miami. I moved to some apartments that most would consider really nice. Not high-end or anything, but definitely nice. Miami was just too expensive, which is the reason for my move. So because I work from home and I have 2 dogs, I wanted to get a 2-bedroom apartment. One that can be an office that I can work from, and one for me to sleep. After having my office in the same room I slept in my last home, still live with my mom, it felt suffocating, like if I never got to escape work. This has been much better for me mentally, and I feel like I'm actually leaving work after I close my laptop. So, I've been here about a month and recently saw a family moving in. I'm very introverted, so I didn't introduce myself or anything. The only time I really ever have contact with anyone is when someone is walking their dog at the same time I am, and our pups want to say hello to each other. Very quick small talk, and then we're on our way. Today, I was going back inside after walking my dogs. I saw the wife, and I just gave a friendly smile. Nothing more. I decided I should throw the trash out before I clock in for the day just to get it out of the way. As I was walking back to my apartment, the wife stopped me to introduce herself. I introduced myself as well. She then asked if I lived with a girlfriend or anything. I told her no, it's just me and the pups. She gave me a strange look that I can only describe as annoyed. She asked if my apartment had 2 bedrooms. I told her yes, that there are 2 bedrooms. She asked me why I wanted 2 bedrooms when I live alone, and explained to her the office sleeping thing I mentioned above. Now this is the part where I may be the a-hole. She said that it was really inconsiderate and rude to bigger families to take up a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. That her family of 4, husband, wife, 2 kids, have to share a 1-bedroom because people like me decide to steal the 2-bedroom apartments. I said that it sucks that you feel that way, but there's nothing I can do. She said I should trade apartments with her. I thought she was joking, so I just started laughing. Not a nervous laugh or anything, I just genuinely found her suggestion hilarious. I then said that her living situation doesn't concern me, and if she wanted a 2-bedroom apartment, she should have looked harder. She said she was going to report me to the building owner, and I said that she should also include reporting me to DeSantis, the Florida governor, while she's at it. I went inside and left her there screaming like a crazy person. Am I the a-hole? Our first judgment comes from apathetic for credit. I think laughter was the appropriate reaction. Next time, just ignore her and her family completely. Consider getting a doorbell camera because these people are clearly unhinged, not the a-hole. DOP replies, yeah, that's the plan. Just never want to interact with them again. The doorbell camera I've had for some time, so definitely keeping that motion sensitivity as high as possible. Betrayed Orphan chimes in next. If her family of 4 is living in a 1-bedroom apartment, it's not because you are living in a place that you can afford and it suits your needs. It's because either she and her husband cannot afford a place that suits their needs and their desires, or because she and her husband are putting their desires above their actual needs. You are not the a-hole. She is the a-hole for being judgmental and having a highly flawed so-called logic that allows her to spew such a self-centered, inconsiderate nonsense. Sloppy Poopy Poppy says, not the a-hole. I very much doubt there are no other 2-bedroom apartments in the place where you live. She should rent one of those. She's being a mooch. DOP replies, I'm not trying to justify her reasoning, but I'm not going to lie. There was a wait list for these apartments. I actually had to wait about 6 months from the time I applied to when I actually got the keys. Maybe she was in a sink or swim situation and got whatever she felt was the quickest solution. Whoa, you are not the a-hole at all, OP. Like you said, her family could have easily looked for a different apartment with more room. It's none of her business what you do and why you chose the apartment you did. She's delusional to think otherwise. Update. First off, I want to thank every one of you guys for your messages and comments. I really did think for a moment I may have just been a dick to the lady, but I guess it's just a crappy situation due to the affordable housing issues going on. So to update you guys, I did not report her. Although she probably deserves it, I decided against it. She's probably some angry mom who more than likely had her back against the wall with everything life has thrown at her. Yes, she was being unreasonable, but I can imagine the stress of a parent is bad. This is not me excusing her, but trying to empathize. With that being said, she did piss someone else off. Not sure if for the same reason as me, but I heard her screaming at someone else. I guess the guy she screamed at decided to report her to management. I haven't seen any moving trucks or anything, but I've only seen the husband and the kids leaving the apartment. It looks like life is going on as usual, but to avoid eviction after having just moved in, I can only assume the husband has set some boundaries regarding her yelling at people. Sorry it's not a juicy update, but it's just a crappy situation for her and her family, and she was probably stressed to a boiling point. Thanks to the guy that did report her though, the rest of the residents living here can at least be at peace without her craziness and entitlement. The Riker maneuver chimes in. Sounds like this problem will sort itself out, because someone this bitter and angry won't be able to hold it in forever. I suspect they'll be evicted at some point in the near future. Rust Blooms chimes in next. You have a lot of empathy, and that's an admirable trait. And it's working itself out. Good for you. Oh, you're so right, OP. And that's really nice of you to try to put yourself in her shoes. It's not an easy thing to do. She was probably stressed out and super unhappy and looking to make other people's lives a little miserable. Hurt people hurt people. When you know where people's reactions to you are coming from, it is much easier to not take it personally. The trick is to recognize it and not play into the behavior. Don't rescue, accept, or buy into how they want you to react. Don't give them your power. One way to win is to love them where they're at and be okay with the outcome. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Our next OP shows us that we have to keep our word, always. Am I the a-hole for wanting to stay true to my wife's wishes? I, 28 female, lost my wife M 2 years ago in an accident when our son was less than a year old. Throughout our entire relationship, from ages 20 to 26, she was very open about how her parents did not accept her, and that she'd given up on offering an olive branch. She seemed to have made peace with the fact that they weren't around anymore, and my family always embraced her with open arms, so she still had some support regardless. When we had our son, Em told me she didn't want her parents to know anything about our child, even through the grapevine. She had let her mom and dad know that we were getting married a few years prior, but they didn't respond very well to the news, so she didn't think they would change their tune. If they did ever manage to hear about our son's birth, they never contacted us to say anything about it. They didn't come to the funeral. I invited them because I thought that maybe they'd want to be there. She was their only child, and I assumed that any animosity they had about how she lived would have been overshadowed by the loss of her in general. I heard nothing from them for 2 years until a few weeks ago when I got a message request on Facebook from M's mother. She said she and her husband wanted to know more about me and our son, so she invited me to get a cup of coffee since they were in town. I agreed to meet them to talk, but I left my son at home with my sister. They looked a little disappointed when I got there and he wasn't with me, but they didn't say anything about that at first. They started off with a few normal questions: how we met, what M's life was like, what our wedding was like. Then they started asking about when they could spend time with our son because they had a right to as his grandparents. I told them that my wife had made it very clear that she didn't want them to know anything about our baby. I felt like I was already betraying M's wishes by agreeing to meet with them and even showing them pictures of him. So the idea of them meeting him on top of all that was a little too much for me at the time. I said I needed to take a bit to think about whether or not I'd allow that. They both seemed upset about it, and they started to argue with me, so I shut the conversation down and said I'd contact them again when I made my decision. I went home and told my sister what happened, and she said that she understood I wanted to listen to M's wishes, but she's gone now, and it's totally possible that her parents have changed. She felt it would be wrong of me to stop them from having a relationship with their daughter's only child. She also said I was just making it harder on myself by avoiding people who could help me raise my son since now I'm doing it on my own. I just don't want to betray M. Info: I was the one who gave birth to our son. He's biologically mine. M was emancipated at 17, but she did continue to try and speak with them on and off for a few years up until our wedding. I know that if they had changed, M would have forgiven them because that's just the kind of person she was. I agreed to meet them because I wanted to know if they regretted how they treated her. Edit number 2. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear enough in the OP, but M was gay. She and I are both women. Her parents rejected her because of her sexuality. Our first reaction comes from I'm Chatterbox. Not the a-hole. They didn't come to their own daughter's funeral. F this request. 1995 photo says, exactly. I would also suggest that you begin to gather any documentation you can about her wishes and their behavior. You also need to be sure that you are absolutely legally the parent. You should also consult an attorney ASAP. That way, you will have someone already lined up who's familiar with the situation when the parents decide to start something, and I am pretty sure they will. Next reaction from IMO Throw. Not the a-hole. Parents that are capable of not showing up at their own daughter's funeral should not be given access to additional children. You would very much be putting your child in danger by introducing these people into his life. This isn't just about your wife's wishes, but about the fact that they are not safe people and have already proven themselves bad with children. The fact that these people already feel they are entitled to some kind of relationship when they had none with their daughter and didn't come to the funeral is all the information you need to make sure they stay out of your life forever. Honestly, there's a reason M didn't want to tell her parents about your child. I don't think you owe them anything. If they couldn't even be bothered to treat their only daughter with respect while she was living, then they don't deserve to be in her only child's life. And there's the chance that they wouldn't help you with him. They might just cause more drama and impact your son's life negatively. Update. I figured I might give you all an update, as it's pretty much been handled now. But first, I do want to say thanks to all of you who offered your responses. The majority of you were very kind about it, which I appreciated more than you know. My son and I went and brought M flowers and just sat with her for a while. Little man ended up falling asleep while we were there, so I had a minute to clear my head and think things through. I listened to your suggestions and took a minute to consider what further action I could take, and if those actions would honor what M would want and also be beneficial to our son. I contacted M's mother to inform her that because our son is biologically mine, they don't maintain any legal right to see him, and I'm not interested in starting some unnecessary battle either. I also said that M made it very clear when she was still here that she didn't want our son to know them. She had made that choice because of how they had treated her in the past, and had only been willing to change her mind about it if they had tried to grow as people. So it makes very little sense for me to allow them into his life if they have not done that. I told her goodbye and I wished her well. She responded and said that she understood why M made such a firm decision, because she and her husband did things that they could never take back or make up for. She told me she regretted every choice she'd ever made to make her daughter feel as though she wasn't loved. She also said that M's dad was the one who made the decision for them to not attend the funeral. He didn't want to go, for reasons she didn't specify, but it's not hard to figure out. And because she's been a housewife for pretty much her entire marriage, I'm assuming she just didn't have the resources to get a plane ticket to fly here. She left it off by telling me that the only person who could forgive her isn't here anymore, to hear her say sorry, but she still wanted me to know how much she wished she had said it before, and that for the sake of honoring what M wanted, neither she nor her husband would be trying to contact me again. I'm very thankful that there was no serious conflict or anything like that, and that M's mom was civil about it, but I just wish that M had been here to receive the apologies that she was owed. She had accepted that she couldn't change them, but she still wished that they would eventually see the light and repair their relationship. She deserved to know they came to regret what they'd done, or that her mom regrets it at the very least. First response from Just Say Gay. You did good, honey. I'm sorry M couldn't hear this apology from her mom. I'm glad you set clear boundaries on their non-involvement in your son's future. I think M would be very proud of you. True Tomatillo 4720 says, wherever M is, she knows how they feel. I'm sorry for your loss, but you have been incredible, OP, to stick by your wife's wishes and boundaries. I wish you and your son the happiest of futures. I'm pretty sure M will be watching you both with nothing but love and joy in seeing you develop your family. Good luck, and thank you for the update. It's unfortunate that sometimes people come to conclusions about their terrible behavior when it's too late, but such is life. Unfortunately, people can't take back what was said or done. And sometimes, an apology isn't always sufficient. It's changed behavior. And you're right, if they couldn't have been bothered to evaluate themselves prior to all of this, why now? The guilt and shame is eating them alive. There's really no way for M's parents to redeem themselves, and her mom is right. She has to live knowing that. You did the right thing by being completely transparent with them. That's a part of the consequences of their own actions. Would you have given your in-laws a chance? Thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below. Until next time.